Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Orphaned Secrets. Episode 7. Chapter 39. Brent's POV. After storming out of Griffin's office, I made a beeline for the forest. The moon goddess was playing some sick joke on me. Alexa, my beautiful mate, the love of my life yet, I know, too soon to say that, but it's true, is Cale Thornwood's half-sister. Sure, she was born from the goddess originally, but her rebirth was from Sarin's mom and Cale Thornwood's father. My mate was related to spotters responsible for ruining my life. Don't think about it that way. Alexa is innocent in all of this. You don't think I know that, Chaos? She did not choose who gave birth to her. Cale Thornwood may be her half-brother, but she is in no way, shape, or form like him. Again, you're stating the obvious. If it is so obvious, then why are you out here whining like a pup, rather than being inside with our mate who probably thinks you hate her? I need to think. About what? We share a mind, Brent. You're trying to decide if you want to keep Alexa as a mate. She's related to them. The people who took me from my family and friends and my girlfriend. I loved my girlfriend, Chaos. I wanted to marry her. Now, she's living her life and moving on while the world thinks I'm dead. I know, Brent. I see all of your memories. Even the ones when you were human. This girlfriend, as you call her, she was quite beautiful but not as beautiful as Alexa. I'm sorry your life turned out the way it did, but I am not sorry that we are one. I am not sorry that we are mated to Alexa and Brooklyn. Don't punish her for something out of her control. Chaos retreated into the back of my mind. He wasn't wrong, and I wasn't lying. I knew Alexa was innocent in all of this. She didn't choose to be taken from her home or be reborn to Kellen or grow up in captivity. I knew she was just as much a victim as I was, but I couldn't shake the agony that she shared DNA with Cale Thornwood and Tessa. Tessa, that good-for-nothing. She's the one who turned me. I remember like it was yesterday. She and a few of their goons came into the cave where I and the others were held. One by one they pulled us out and bit into our necks. The screams, cries, and wails could be heard echoing throughout as they bit into every single one of us. I was one of the last to be turned, and I had to watch people slowly die. The ones that didn't die, like me, we laid around on the cold, hard ground as we got progressively sicker for several hours. The chills, the seizures, the vomiting, and fevers. I'll never forget the feeling of absolute misery. I launched my fist into a nearby tree trunk from all the painful memories. I felt the pain from the hit, but it didn't even compare to the pain I felt in my heart. I loved Alexa. There was no doubt about that. I just wasn't sure if I could look past the fact that she was related to the Pattersons. Brent. I didn't need to turn around when I heard a familiar voice. Son, look at me. I slowly pivoted my feet to look Richard in the eye. I can't even begin to imagine how much turmoil you are going through right now. Richard, she's related to them, I said, my voice cracking. How do I look past that? You don't, he said flat out. You embrace it. Alexa and Xandra cannot help who fathered them. It's wrong of you to hold that against them, especially given that one of them is your mate. Brent, have you forgotten who they are? Your mate and your future Luna are the children of the moon goddess. The mother of all werewolves. Yes, in a physical sense, they share blood with Cale Thornwood and Tessa, but their blood is so much purer than that. They were born as goddesses. You, a human turned wolf are mated to the moon goddess daughter of pure blood. That is a gift, an exceedingly rare gift. Don't throw it away over something as trivial as DNA. I looked at him and was speechless. It wasn't that easy for me. What about Sarin? Are you going to tell her the same thing? That DNA is trivial when that family took everything from her when she was merely a child. I countered. It is not my place to tell Sarin anything. I am your alpha, and you are the future beta of this pack. Alexa is your mate, and you've already announced her as the future beta female. I had completely forgotten about that. Richard gave me a curt smile and placed his hands on my shoulders. Brent, when you chose to come to this pack rather than Blue Lake, I was very honored. Not just with you, but the others who made that decision as well. I know life has not been easy since you transitioned, but I would like to think that your ability to fight through the hard transition from mortal to the supernatural is why both Griffin and Everett see you fit to be beta. This changes a lot of things for you, son. It's not common, rather, it's never been heard of that a newborn is given rank status. On top of that, you're mated to an immensely powerful she-wolf. All of these are blessings. Cherish them. If you let this bullshit of DNA get in the way of your happiness, Cale Thornwood and Tessa win. He didn't even wait for me to respond before turning his heel and leaving me by myself once more. I let his words play over and over in my head again. I needed to really think about what I was going to do. Mav Kelling's POV. After taking Jay out of the office and back to the guest room she had stayed in before, I gently laid her down on the bed. As soon as her body made contact, she rolled over onto her side with her back facing me. My wolf, Arcos, was whimpering in my head seeing her so broken. We should hold her. Arcos, we need to give her space. But our touch can help her calm down. She was just in our arms, Yuluf. Did that calm her down at all? He whimpered again and retreated to the back of my mind. Arcos was a giant, chocolate-colored wolf and had one of the densest coats I had ever seen. He was without fear and had no issues running into a fight. I trained my entire life to be a warrior for this pack, so it only made sense that my wolf would be a warrior as well. But when it came to Jay, he was a lovesick puppy. I never heard him whimper. Not even when we got injured. The fact that he was now just seeing her like this only further proved that he loved her and her wolf. Jay, I'm going to get you some water, okay? I'll be right back, I said to her softly. She didn't respond or make any gestures that she heard me. I figured she did, but I didn't want to make her feel obligated to answer. I walked out of the room and closed the door behind me. When I got down to the kitchen, I grabbed a few of the water bottles in the fridge and made a couple of peanut butter and honey sandwiches just in case she got hungry. She had to be hungry. She was nothing but skin and bones. Holding her, she felt like she weighed no more than 80 pounds. And for a she-wolf that was abnormally unhealthy. I packed up the sandwiches into Ziploc containers to keep them fresh for as long as possible and grabbed the water. As I was making my way out of the kitchen, I ran into a couple of pack members. "Hi, Chocolate Thunder," one of them cooed as she caressed my arm. "Are you hungry? I'm sure one of us would taste better than those sandwiches," another said. I wanted to roll my eyes, but I was too nice to do that. There was no reason to lie to them or lead them on, so I bit the bullet and told them the truth. "Ladies, although I'm flattered with your advances, unfortunately, I am no longer available. I have found my mate, and these sandwiches are for her." All of them scoffed and stomped away. I finally understood why Griffin and Brent wanted to avoid the she-wolves of our pack so much now. I was kind of regretting losing my virginity at 16, but I honestly didn't think I could hold out until finding my mate. Especially since it didn't happen right away at 18 like I had hoped it would. I would have been dubbed the 30-year-old Virgin. I was a little taken aback to find out my mate was so much younger than me, and to know the life she had growing up only made this situation worse. I never imagined I would be mated to a special wolf, let alone, a special wolf that needed to be reprogrammed entirely. I already knew that no matter what I did, Jennifer would never be whole. Being abducted at 2. Turned into a prisoner for 16 years, then being used as a slave for reproduction purposes. It was as if she was held at a puppy mill for werewolves. As I was walking across the living area back to the stairs, I ran into Griffin. "Hey, how is she?" he asked me. "Sleeping, barely. I'm taking these to her just in case," I replied, eyeing the water and sandwiches. "You going to stay with her tonight?" "I kind of have to, man. I can't leave her alone, not after what happened today." "I get it," he said and looked off to the side. "What's eating you?" I asked. "Oh, it's just," he paused and rubbed the back of his neck. "I talked to Jasper, and Sarin got the answers she needed about being related to the girls. And it's not good. They found that it wasn't Marvin who fathered the girls." "Then who?" He gave me a side eye before answering. "It was Kellen Patterson, the former alpha of Blood Moon." "Wait, what?" "That's the pack that..." "Yeah." I didn't know how else to react. "So, not only are Alexa and Xandra related to Luna Sarin, but also to Cale Thornwood?" Griffin nodded his head. "Damn. That's got to be rough on Brent." "You're telling me? Where is he?" "He ran out of my office when we all pieced it together. Richard went to go find him." "How's Alexa and Xandra doing?" "Xandra seems to be holding her own, but she was upset when I told them that Sarin needs time to process everything. Kellen is the one who turned Sarin into a child slave and killed her parents and destroyed her pack." "What?" "Yeah, that's a story for another time." I just nodded and shook my head at the same time. Things were really complicated. "What about Alexa?" I asked. "She thinks Brent hates her, and she's afraid he may reject her because she's related to Spotter that ruined his life." "You don't think he would actually do that, do you?" "I hope not. Alexa loves him, and I know he loves her. This is just a lot to process." Everyone thought they were done with Blood Moon and their SHT, but, even from beyond the werewolf grave, they're still up our lives. I nodded my head in agreement. "What about Marvin?" "Sarin killed him. Ripped off his head without even touching him." "I'm not going to say anything to that. I'm going up to J. Link me if you need me for anything." "Good night, brother." "Good night, Alpha." When I made it back to her room, I knocked on the door and waited a few seconds before opening it. Jay still had her back towards the door, but she wasn't crying anymore. Her breathing was labored, but it appeared that she had cried herself to sleep. I put the water and the food on the nightstand by the bed and gently sat down next to her. She looked so fragile curled up in the bed. I looked around and just scoffed to myself. She was in a king-sized bed, and she barely took up a fifth of it, she was so small. I gently maneuvered her and pulled the comforter from under her body and put it back over her to keep her warm. She whimpered slightly, and she started to cry again. I thought maybe I had awoken her, but it turned out she was dreaming. "Hold her." Arcos was adamant about keeping her close. I sighed in defeat and gently got on the bed behind her. I stayed on top of the covers but placed one arm underneath and ever so delicately ached it around her waist. A few seconds of me holding her like that, her breathing evened out again, and her tears stopped. See, our touch soothes her in her sleep even if it doesn't when she is awake. How can someone be so evil as to hurt something so beautiful and delicate as her? There are evil beings in the world, Mav Kelunk. Our job is to let our mates know that we are not one of them. I just nodded my head and pulled her close to me. She seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep. I figured I would stay with her for the night just in case. If she woke up freaked out, I wouldn't take offense and would apologize. For now, I just wanted to provide her some comfort. I doubt she ever slept comfortably a day in her life. I prayed to the moon goddess that Jay would be able to find solace in my arms for the evening and shut out the horrible things that happened today. I prayed that her parents would meet her in her dreams so that she could at least say her final goodbyes to them. I readjusted myself and put my free arm under her neck and let her sleep on my arm as a pillow. I inhaled her scent of what seemed to be candy apples and drifted to sleep. I only hoped her wolf didn't try to kill me when she woke up. Chapter 40. Jasper's POV. After witnessing Sarin descend into temporary madness, I pulled her out of the dungeon and escorted her upstairs. It was no secret that Marvin was sick and deranged, but I didn't think that his wolf would be too. Finding out that he entered this business to save his mate's life almost made me sympathetic to his cause, but then his wolf admitted that he didn't even accept his mate as his Luna, all because she was human. But hearing that it was Kellen who violated Sarin's mom all those years ago made me sick, and Blade's hackles were standing upright. I carried Sarin to our room and laid her down but saw that her clothes were covered in blood because of me. "Dearest, I'm going to run a bath for us, okay?" I told her. All she could do was nod softly. I discarded my clothing into the laundry chute. I was pretty certain the Omegas were going to have a field day with all of the clothing they were about to receive from all of us. I went into the bathroom and ran the water and added some stress-relieving bath salts. The moon goddess only knew how much Sarin would need this. To think that her only remaining biological family shared DNA with the disgruntled Pattersons. That would be enough to drive anyone over the edge. As I was getting the bath ready, it suddenly dawned on me who else this directly affected. I let out a disheveled sigh and hung my neck back. I shook it off and went back into the bedroom to fetch Sarin. She was still laying down in the exact same position she had been when I walked away. "Come on, Tink. The water is ready." I picked her up and she leaned into my C.Hest but didn't hold onto my neck. It was like carrying a statue. I placed her on the counter of the bathroom, and gently removed her clothing. While I discarded them, I mind-linked my mother to get some Omegas to replace the sheets on our bed. I brought Sarin to the tub with me and gently lowered her into the tub. Once she was settled, I got in behind her and had her lean against me. She was moving on autopilot and didn't seem to be cognizant. "Sarin, I need you to talk to me," I said to her gently as I rubbed her shoulders. She didn't say anything and was completely still. "Dearest, don't shut down on me. If you need to scream, then scream. If you need to cry, then cry. Don't bottle up your emotions. William taught you to never do that." She was silent again, and after a minute or so I felt her body starting to tremble, and I heard her sniffle. "Baby." "How?" she said softly. Had I not been a werewolf, I never would have heard her. "How what? How do I accept them?" "Accept who?" "Xandra and Alexa," I asked, and she just nodded slowly. I knew where she was going with this. Anyone would, but it wasn't their fault. It wouldn't be fair to them. Sure, life isn't fair, not by any means, but they sure as hell didn't ask to be reborn to the likes of Kellen Patterson. "Sarin, you can't look at it that way. She immediately sat up and turned out to face me. Her eyes were dull and empty. How can I not? Kellen ruined my life, Jasper. You were there. You saw what I went through while at Blood Moon. Yes, I did, but what happened to you has nothing to do with Alexa and Xandra. Doesn't it? She snapped back. I looked at her as I waited for her to continue. Jasper, Kellen killed my parents, remember? He challenged my father but killed him instead. All because my mom refused to be with him. I get that, but I don't get where you're going with this, I replied. Kellen had her. He had her, and he fathered pups with her. Why would he just let her go? I can see your point, dearest, but you have to remember, Kellen was an alpha of his own pack. He wouldn't have been able to hold her for that long. He may have just impregnated her and left her to Marvin. That doesn't make sense, Jasper. It doesn't have to make sense to us. Whatever sick and twisted mindset Kellen was in all those years ago only had to make sense to him. We can't turn back time to figure what happened exactly, but we also can't blame the girls. Kellen killed my parents, Jasper. All because my mom refused to be with him. She chose her mate, and he couldn't accept that. He staged a challenge to kill my father. Then killed her because she still refused him even though he was victorious. Then he ordered Blood Moon to slaughter my pack, my home. But that wasn't enough for him. To add injury to insult, he took me and turned my life into a literal living hell. Baby, I know all of this, I said reassuringly and cupped her cheeks when I saw her eyes fill with tears. But Kellen also didn't know who you were at the time, because you were smart enough to keep your identity a secret at such a young age. He took everything from me, Jasper. And now he's making it so that I can't even love my own sisters. Her voice faltered, and the tears fell. I watched as the droplets fell into the bath water. She held my wrists as I continued to cup her face and her sobs turned into full-on bawling. I dropped my hands, scooped her up, and pulled her to me. I cradled her in the tub as she let out of all her emotions. In the back of my mind, Blade was whimpering seeing Sarin in so much pain. Too bad Kellen is dead. I know. I wish we could revive him and kill him all over again. Where is he buried? We should dig him up and desecrate his remains. That's a good question, Blade. I have no idea. We were never told what happened to him. Blade grunted in confusion. It dawned on me that we never heard about when or how Kellen, Cale Thornwood, Tessa, and Nicole were executed. That, in and of itself, made me start to worry. As I was lost in my own thoughts, Sarin shot her head up and her crying immediately stopped. I looked at her, shocked, but her eyes were black and full of rage. Callie. Why did Blade just tell me that you were never told what happened to that mongrel? She asked with a low growl in her voice. Of course, Blade couldn't keep his damn muzzle shut. Before I could even answer, Callie jumped out of the bath. Callie, wait! I shouted, but she used her super speed and was gone. I mind-linked the pack to let them know not to stand in the way of their Luna as she was about to start a rampage in the end. I quickly pulled on some pants without even drying off to find her. I was running down the stairs, 2 at a time, when I got a link from my mother. Jasper. Sarin is attacking your father. Ah! I grunted and ran to their room. When I got there, the door had been pushed in and was off its hinges. Sarin, please, what is this, the meaning of this? I heard my father's voice. Sarin had him by the throat, but his feet were still on the ground. I guess her height disadvantage worked in my father's favor. Where are the Pattersons? She roared. Sweetheart, what are you talking about? "They're dead," my father replied, attempting to push her off. "Jasper, why is she asking about them?" my mother asked. "Not now, mother," I answered and went to pull her off my father. Unfortunately, Sarin was using her super strength and I couldn't pry her off. I needed help, and I knew just who to call. "William! Get to my parents' room, now! I need your help prying Sarin off of my father before she kills him. I am on my way." In the blink of an eye, William showed up and easily subdued Sarin. Blade was getting frustrated seeing him on top of Sarin while she was still ached, but I had to remind him that it was harmless. Had he not shown up, who knows how much more damage she could have done. I hated that Sarin still couldn't control her emotions when it came to anger. We were just lucky she wasn't using her powers on my father. "Sarin, that is enough," William growled at her. His eyes shined bright red indicating that his wolf, whatever his name was in control. A few seconds later, Sarin calmed down and, instead of black eyes, they were back to her chocolate brown hue. "Get off of me!" Sarin shouted at William and shoved him off. My mother quickly gave her some clothes. "Sarin, what is the meaning of your behavior? Why are you attacking Ronan?" William asked her. "I need answers. I need to know where the Pattersons are." "Sarin, I told you, they're dead," my father answered while rubbing his neck. "Then why is there no definitive proof of their deaths? We never heard back from the elders. Where are Kellen's remains? Or Tessa's? Or Cale Thornwood's for that matter? Dad?" He turned to me. "Sarin has a point. Why didn't the elders ever report the executions to us? Legally, we had a right to know when they occurred," I said point blank. Something seemed to have clicked in my father's brain, and he suddenly ran out of the room. We ran after him and found him in his office down the hall. He picked up the phone and quickly dialed a number. After a few seconds, we heard someone pick up, and my father started to spit off questions. "Where are they? Don't give me that crap, you know who. Where are Kellen and his family? I wouldn't be asking if I honestly believed that. Then where are their death files? Why were they never given to me or my son? What? What are you going off about? We never received. By whom? When? You're certain? Send me the copies now. I don't care if you work for the council. My son and our pack have every legal right to those files." "Well, then go get them. Dad." He put up a finger to shush me. We all just stared at him as he waited on the phone. "Yes, I'm still here." "What? What do you mean they're gone? Why wasn't this reported sooner? Don't give me tea." "Well, you better tell the elders about this before I do." My father slammed the phone down onto the receiver. He was huffing and puffing, and his wolf was about 10 seconds from surfacing. My mother ran to his side to calm him down. Almost 30 years together, and she still had that effect on him. "Honey, what is it? What happened?" she asked him gently while caressing his arm. "The death reports were supposed to be sent to us via Interwolf mail, but the courier never delivered them," he said. "Who was the courier?" I asked. "The former assistant ME for the elders, who apparently resigned not too long after having delivered the files to us," my father replied, using finger quotes. "Wait, but we never," I paused when my father gave me a knowing look. "Dad, where are those files?" When I asked the head ME for the backup files, he went to find them. He's old school and keeps everything in physical paper form. Refuses to digitize anything. And I asked. My father paused and looked at all of us but specifically at Sarin. Dad. He said that the files are missing. What? We all exclaimed. Dad, please tell me that there are at least bodies that corroborate that they're dead. If Kellen and Cale Thornwood weren't disgraced alphas, then there would be. However, because they were considered to be disgraced, they should have received the lethal injection and then should have been cremated. My father gave me another look. Ronan, what aren't you saying? Sarin asked. I knew she was trying not to read his mind. According to the ME, he didn't conduct the cremation, the assistant ME did. Now he's questioning if they even actually occurred. Oh my God, my mother gasped. Are you telling me that the Pattersons could actually be alive? Sarin gritted her teeth. With everything the ME just said, yes. Sarin took a sharp intake of breath. It is very highly possible that the Pattersons may actually be alive. Chapter 41. Jasper's POV. After I spoke on the matter with Richard and Griffin, we all agreed that Sarin and the girls could be in danger if Kellen and his family were still alive. My gut instinct already knew things would never be peaceful for us until the Pattersons were officially disposed of. After everything came to light, Cale Thornwood was a sociopath with an unhealthy obsession with Sarin who would resort to extreme measures to get what he wanted and mirrored his own father, Kellen, who Hest rated the heist of a lifetime to father Alexa and Xandra with Sarin's mom. There was no telling what they would do to exact their revenge on all of us. Kellen was so deranged that he would more than likely come for them if he ever found out the girls were alive. That made me wonder who the buyer was now. There were apparently two. One for Marvin, and one for Levi. I was kicking myself for letting Sarin interrogate Marvin. Had I done the questioning or, at the very least, kept her calm throughout the whole thing, then maybe he would still be alive so he could tell us who his buyer was. I was kicking myself even harder for allowing myself to kill Levi down in the bunker. Now we had no idea who the buyers were. Do you think that Kellen could have been one of the buyers? I don't know how, since he would have absolutely no money to pay for them. You heard what Marvin and Levi both said. Their buyers were paying a lot of money for the twins. It was just a thought. I shook my head. I knew Blade was only trying to help. I buried my face in my hands and groaned in frustration. Wow, you don't sound happy. I looked up to find Kendrick and Jason standing in my doorway. I'm anything but happy. They both sighed and came over to my desk. Jasper, you need to go back to work. The company can't run itself, you know, Jason said to me. Hey, I take offense to that. Kendrick exclaimed. I've been picking up the slack. Yeah, keep telling yourself that, Jason retorted. Kendrick punched him, and Jason punched back. These two dimwits never gave it a rest. All right, enough. I shouted at them. They both smiled and gave their undivided attention to me. Jasper, you can't bury yourself into trying to find Kellen and his family. They've been hiding for over a year now, Kendrick told me. Ken, I know that. But just knowing that they're out there is driving me insane. They're supposed to be dead. We know that, man, Jason replied. But you've already put off work for the last few days while we helped Griffin's pack. You need to get back to work. Your company is literally how our pack stays afloat. Ugh. I growled and slammed my fist on the desk. Jasper. I looked past Kendrick's and Jason's heads and saw Sarin with Sam. Dearest, is everything okay? I asked and got up to greet them. No, but I heard the guys, and they're right. I looked down at her in shock. Jasper, you can't keep putting off work. It's been several days now. I know you want to find them, I do too, but the company needs you. The company can wait, I need to find the Pattersons before they rain hell down on us, I countered. It's been over a year, babe. Wherever they're hiding, whatever they're up to, it won't happen for a while. You must go to work. I let out a heavy sigh and just nodded my head. Sam pulled on my pants, and I looked down at him. He gave me the cheesiest smile, and my heart just melted. I picked him up, hugged him tightly, and kissed his chubby cheek. Fine, I'll go back to work starting tomorrow. Sarin smiled and got on her tippy toes to kiss me. How are you doing, dearest? I'm coping. Have you called to talk to Xandra or Alexa? She bit her bottom lip and shook her head. Sarin, you can't avoid them. I'm not trying to. It's hard, that's all. I need more time. Then at least tell Griffin that so he can tell them. It's like you said, it's been several days now. You should at the very least tell them you need more time. It's twice as hard for Alexa. What do you mean? Griffin told me that Brent hasn't spoken a word to her since they found out Cale Thornwood was their half-brother. This is just as personal for Brent as it is for you, and poor Alexa is getting the brunt force of it all. Sarin frowned at my words and cast her eyes down in regret. After a few seconds, she nodded. I'll call Griffin. Will you watch Sam? Of course. Sweet. Kendrick shouted with joy. Sam, want to play hide and go seek with Uncle Kenny and Uncle Jace? Yeah. Sam bounced in my arms. I put him down, and he ran over to Kendrick and Jason. Sarin and I smiled at their interactions. I'll be back, Sarin said, and she left the office. I knew that I couldn't force Sarin to accept the girls wholeheartedly, but I really hoped that she could find it in her heart to look past Kellen's DNA and focus on her mother's instead. Sarin's POV. Hello. Griffin. Luna. Sarin, this is unexpected. I know, I'm sorry, but I needed to speak with you. I'm guessing this has to do with the girls. Yes. Let me guess, you need more time. Is that obvious? Yes, it is. Don't worry, Xandra fully understands. She does. Yes, believe it or not. After she found out exactly who Kellen was, she immediately broke down and cried. I thought she was crying for herself and Alexa, but turns out she was crying for you. She said that she could only imagine what this was doing to you and your emotions. She's not mad. No, absolutely not. She feels for you and is willing to give you the space that you need. Alexa is too, but she's having a little more trouble since Brent is also giving her the silent treatment. I'm so sorry. I never wanted for this to happen, Griffin. Luna, it's fine. You have nothing to apologize for. Unfortunately, we're all feeling it. It was even worse when Jasper informed me that the Pattersons are possibly still alive. Brent is taking that news even harder than the news of Alexa being Cale Thornwood's half-sister. Goddess, I don't know what to do, Griffin. This is so hard. On the one hand, I love Xandra and Alexa. They're my sisters after all, but I can't get past the fact that they're related to Kellen and his family. Luna, I don't blame you, and neither do they. As I said, they're very understanding of the situation. Honestly, more so than they should be. It lets me know that they are, in fact, ready to be given their TLES, however, with Brent being the way he is, Alexa's TLE will have to wait. Titles. Yes, the full moon is tomorrow. Oh my god, your alpha coronation. I'm sorry, I totally forgot about that. Don't worry about it. I hope that you will be able to attend. Yes, yes, of course. Even with everything going on, we wouldn't miss it. You've done so much for us, congratulating you in person is the least we can do. Great. Griffin, please tell the girls how sorry I am, but I will see them tomorrow. Luna, may I ask a favor? Of course, anything, Griffin. Don't ignore the girls when you see them. Even if you can't accept them as your family, at the very least, can you accept them as your friends? Luna. Hey? Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yes, I can try to do that. Thank you. No, thank you. See you tomorrow. After I hung up the phone, I was riddled with shock throughout my entire body. Why hadn't I thought about that? Accepting them as my sisters may be difficult, but there was no reason as to why I couldn't still be their friend. I sighed and shook my head. I had made this all about me and my feelings, and never once stopped to consider theirs. Sarin, it's okay. Griffin said that they're being understanding. Callie, I've been selfish. And you've had every right to be. I know better than anyone what that mongrel did to you. I witnessed it firsthand through your memories on your 18th birthday. I even felt it the night Jasper found us. Xandra is definitely worthy of being a Luna if she can already be that empathetic. Yes, I agree. She will make a fine Luna. But poor Alexa. She will be fine. She, too, has a hurdle to get over, but I'm sure Brent will accept her again soon. I hope so. I cut my connection with Callie and went back to Jasper's office to inform him of the Alpha ceremony at Golden Moon tomorrow. I seriously wondered where that scoundrel Kellen could be. Somewhere not too far away. Third-person POV. Are we ready yet, Dad? Not so fast, Cale Thornwood, we have to time this perfectly. The Alpha ceremony at Golden Moon is tomorrow according to my source. We need to hit them at the ceremony. All of the other packs will be there. I know that, Cale Thornwood. Kellen roared at his son. After Blood Moon had been dismantled, Cale Thornwood, Tessa, and their mother, Nicole, were taken into custody, where Kellen was awaiting their arrival. Nicole attacked her husband for ruining their pack, and their lives with his personal obsession for Megan, Sarin's mother. It also didn't help that Cale Thornwood and Tessa hated their father for what he had said about them. Unfortunately for them, they had no choice but to deal with it because Kellen had been planning his escape for months after his capture. With his reputation and ability to con his way out of anything, Kellen had bribed the assistant medical examiner for the elders. In exchange for his loyalty, Kellen promised him a cut of his personal hidden fortune that no one knew, not even Nicole knew about. After the assistant ME forged the Pattersons' deaths and failed to provide the documents to Blue Lake, he resigned from his post and helped the Pattersons escape. Kellen had a secret hideout where no one would dare come to look for them. The Silver Lake Pack's Fallen Pack House. After Kellen had successfully taken down Gideon Calloway, Sarin's father, slaughtered the entire pack, and taken Sarin in, he secretly had a bunker made beneath the rubble. That is where he and his family have been hiding out for the last year while they planned their revenge. Kellen was hell-bent on taking down all of the Alphas, and the Elders for their betrayal. Cale Thornwood was determined now more than ever to kill Jasper, his son, and take Sarin back as his rightful mate. After all, in his mind, she belonged to him first, no matter what Jasper had told Cale Thornwood about Sarin being mated to him so many years ago. Nicole and Tessa hid in the background. They wanted to just leave and start anew, but Kellen and Cale Thornwood were keen on revenge. Nicole and Tessa worked with the humans to make ends meet, not knowing that Kellen had a secret fortune he never planned to share with his family. When Kale Thornwood's source returned to tell them Golden Moon had a new Alpha in line, and that it was an Omega, they knew that they could easily take Golden Moon down during the Alpha ceremony, as the transfer of Alpha power would weaken the pack for a short period of time. When the source had also indicated that there were a new Luna and Beta female in line as well, Kellen wanted more information. The source provided photos for him, and his cold heart dropped to the pit of his stomach. Xandra was the spitting image of Megan, and Alexa was a mixture of him and Megan. He knew immediately that these were the two pups that he had fathered with Megan but had to leave behind because of Nicole's suspicions. The last thing he wanted was for his crazy wife and chosen mate to find out he had fathered two pups with Megan. Nicole still had no idea of his infidelity because the Dark Witch Opal had used her dark powers to hide the pain a mate would feel during an affair. Kellen had one main goal: kill every Alpha and Elder at the ceremony and take their packs as retribution. Kellen promised to let Sarin live so that Kale Thornwood could have her for himself, but what Kale Thornwood didn't know was that Kellen had no intentions of letting Sarin live, or him for that matter. Dad? Dad? What? Quit zoning out me. We need to get this plan in order if we're going to attack. Don't talk to me that way, boy. I don't need you for this. Kale Thornwood and his father were constantly at each other's throats. If you two can't work together, this will never work. Nicole shouted from the door. How many times do I have to tell you, knock before you enter here? Kellen roared at her. And how many times do I have to tell you that you do not command me? You're not even an Alpha anymore, and, as far as I'm concerned, you're no longer my mate. The only reason why I'm still here is because of Kale Thornwood and Tessa, she growled back. If I made one mistake worse than these toimbeciles, it was taking you a chosen mate, Kellen sneered at her. He turned his back and walked away. Kale Thornwood growled at this father's retreating form. I should be saying the same thing to you, you. Nicole screamed at him. Mom, why do you have to antagonize him? Kale Thornwood asked her nicely. Because I loved him for 20 years, and then he went and betrayed us all, she cried. I was the Luna of a powerful pack, and now I'm a rogue because of him. It's not all his fault, you know, Tessa said, coming into the room. Kale Thornwood and I are to blame too. Kale Thornwood lifted his brow at his sister. Don't give me that look. You know it's the truth. Now we have a chance at redemption. Only if we can get the Father of the Year over there to keep his marbles intact. You know he's only doing this so he can take over all of the packs, right? Kale Thornwood said. Day. He has the worst poker face there is, Tessa replied. Sweetheart, do you have a contingency plan for him? His mother asked with a knowing tone. Don't worry, Mom, I do. When he least expects it, I'm going to kill him, and with Sarin by my side, we will be the strongest Alpha and Luna there ever existed. The Patterson bloodline will continue, but it will be from my blood, and not from his, Kale Thornwood replied, staring off in the direction his father left. Chapter 42. Griffin's POV. After getting off the phone with Sarin, I decided to go see where Xandra was. I figured she and Alexa were busy moving their personal belongings into their new rooms. Richard has since moved out of his room in the pack house on the 3rd floor into a smaller room on the 2nd floor. Given that he would soon be the elder of our pack, he decided to stay in the pack house but surrendered the Alpha quarters to me and Xandra. At first, Xandra seemed hesitant to leave Alexa alone, for any reason, but Alexa was the one who encouraged her to do so. It must have reassured Xandra that her sister was still her usual cool, calm, and collected self. Alexa was definitely handling the drama better than we thought she would, more so than Brent. I shook my head at the thought of Brent and how much he was taking this out on Alexa. Even though Richard has spoken to him, accepting the fact that our mates were related to the family that ruined his life was a hard pill for anyone to swallow. I made my way to the new room that Xandra and I would be sharing together and, sure enough, the girls were chit-chatting on the small chaise lounge at the foot of the bed. "Ladies, how's the moving coming along?" I asked, leaning against the door frame. "Hi," Xandra greeted me with a smile. Her smile made my heart skip a beat. And to think, I believed that I would never be able to feel the love of the mate bond again, but yet, here Xandra was. A simple smile was all it took for me to get the butterflies and havoc to howl with delight. "Hi, Griffin," Alexa said and gave a subtle smile as well. "Lex, how are you holding up?" I asked her. "I'm okay. Brent actually smiled at me today," she replied. "That was a step in the right direction." "You saw him?" "Yeah, in passing. But he didn't avoid me this time." "Do you want me to talk to him?" "No, it's okay, really. I don't want to force him into anything. I won't lie and say it hasn't hurt, you know, the whole avoiding me and SHT. But, I have to remember that he was hurt by. I won't even call him our brother. He hurt Brent and took away his livelihood. If I were in his shoes, I would be the same way." Her response didn't surprise me, but it was pretty crazy how someone so young could be so level-headed. "Alexa, are you sure?" Xandra asked. "Yes, and you know you would be too, Xandra. Everyone we've met since we escaped that day has had something tragic happen to them in their lifetime. It just so happens that two people closest to us were hurt and traumatized by the same individual. Our birth father. Escape is putting it mildly. You threw me off a cliff into an ice-cold lake," Xandra muttered under her breath. "What was that?" Alexa asked. Xandra shook her head. "Are we sure that you're not meant to be Luna? Because I swear you're taking this whole thing really well," Xandra responded, trying to change the subject back. "No offense to Alexa, but I'd much rather have you as a mate," I replied and pulled her to me. I kissed her neck and hugged her, making her giggle. "You're only saying that because I'm already your mate," Xandra exclaimed and shoved me away. "I'm hurt at your accusation, babe," I told her and put my hands on my heart as if I were really in pain. "Okay, I'm going to leave you two to your lovey-dovey ways," Alexa announced and stood up. "Alexa, are you sure you don't want me to talk to Brent?" I asked her once more to be certain. "Yes, I'm sure. He needs time and space, and I'm going to give that to him. Isn't that what mates are for? Support and reassurance." I nodded my head, and she left our room. As soon as the door closed, Xandra let out a deep sigh. I didn't need to ask to know what Xandra was thinking. "I thought you'd like to know that I spoke with Sarin today," I casually told Xandra. "You did?" "Yeah, just a few minutes before I came in here. She also needs a bit more time, but she is coming tomorrow for the ceremony and promised that she would try to still be your friend, at least. Even if she can't be your sister, just yet." Xandra gave a face of pure relief and leaned into my chest. I kissed the top of her head and held her close. "So, what's going to happen tomorrow night at the ceremony?" she asked without lifting her head. "Well, a lot of things, but the most important thing is going to be Richard transferring his alpha power to me. Normally, an alpha ceremony can take place whenever, but in my situation, given that I was born an Omega, it needs to be done during a full moon when a wolf's power is at its highest peak." "Then what?" "Well, then we have your Luna ceremony immediately thereafter." Right after. Yup. We have to do things a little differently than most other packs, but that makes us that much more special, I replied and squeezed her a little tighter. I felt her fidget a bit. What's wrong, baby? Hey? Oh, it's nothing. It can wait, she said shyly. I pulled away from her a little and looked down at beautiful blue eyes. Xandra, you know you can tell me anything, right? She gave away her tell again. Xandra, what is it? You're biting your L.P. She grunted, making me chuckle. I gave her a look to just spit it out. Ugh, fine. It's just that. I was wondering. It's not important, but I've been thinking about it the last few days, and Ugh, how do I say this without sounding weird? Hey, I said and grabbed her shoulders to make her look at me. Whatever it is, don't be embarrassed, and don't feel pressured. It's just that. I was thinking about that thing. What thing? You know, that thing that we, and by we, I mean mates, do after they meet. You know, I looked at her for a second, and finally realized what she was trying to say. Xandra, are you asking about X? Yes, she responded quickly and quietly. I smiled and pulled her to me again. Xandra, I don't want you to feel rushed to have X with me. Yes, for most werewolves, mating right away is normal, but nothing about our meeting has been normal. Even our ceremonies won't be normal. But everyone keeps asking me about being marked and if we've mated yet. That's because it's not normal for werewolves to wait as long as we have. Most can barely wait a few seconds, let alone a couple of weeks the way you and I have. I just don't want you to be disappointed by me. Whoa, hey now, don't say that, I told her and peered into her eyes. That can never happen, Xandra. You are one of the strongest individuals that I know. You and your sister. You two survived some of the worst things that most only see in their nightmares or in horror movies. And yet, here you are. You're about to be the Luna of a mid-size pack. You handle yourself with pride and agility, and you were this close to killing a pack member for insinuating that you weren't good enough for me. That's the furthest thing from being a disappointment. She gave me a curt smile. And believe me when I say, you don't need to worry about being disappointing when it comes to X. Because when we do finally mate, you're going to be too busy feeling all of the pleasure. I'll be giving you to worry about whether you're doing anything right or wrong. Our first night together will be all about me showing you exactly what pleasure and happiness really are, I said with a low and growl. Oh, I sensed her arousal, and Havoc was growling as well. I pulled her into a deep kiss. She moaned into my mouth, and I grabbed one of her cheeks, making her gasp. I seized the opportunity and thrust my tongue into her mouth, causing her to moan even more. I felt her knees give out from under her, and I lifted her up into my arms and pressed her against the nearest wall. Xandra, you're so beautiful, I said as I broke the kiss and moved to her neck. I ducked on the spot that I was going to mark and instinctively she ground her H.P.S. into my ever-painful growing boner. I growled and ducked on her marking spot even harder. Ah! Griffin! She moaned even louder, and one of her hands went to my hair. If this didn't stop, we were going to go all the way. And by how she was moaning and moving her body against mine, she wanted me to go all the way. And desire took over, and I ripped the top of her shirt open, exposing her cleavage. She squeaked in surprise but never once broke our kiss. I had already caught a small glimpse of her and ached the day she shifted to attack Lorelei, and I had to admit, the moon goddess spared no expense when creating this beautiful she-wolf. Now that she and Alexa had put on some weight with regular meals, my girl was filling out in all of the right places. Griffin! Xandra gasped and shouted. I hadn't even realized that I moved her B.Ra cup out of the way and took her pull into my mouth. I was about to move on to the other one when the door suddenly burst open. Hey, Griffin, I was wondering if you could. OSH. Ah! Xandra screamed. I dropped her and she quickly hid behind me. What spot, Brent? I roared. Sorry. Sorry, he ran out and slammed the door behind him. I cursed under my breath. Havoc was growling in anger that we were disturbed. I turned around to face Xandra, and she was covering herself in embarrassment. You okay? No. Brent just saw us. What if he tells people? Okay, 1, he's not going to. And 2, we're mates. There is nothing wrong with us being caught being intimate with each other. Ugh, whatever, I can't do this right now, she said and stormed into the bathroom. I hung my head back seeing that my chance to mate with her was ruined by Brent. Havoc wanted to kick him, and I was right there with him. But I figured I would let him go for the time being. Brent's POV. After I slammed the door behind me, I let out a breath of relief. Thankfully, I didn't see anything. At least nothing too private. Seeing Griffin nursing on Xandra like that made me want to vomit though. I was only glad they didn't fully make it to third base before I walked in. That would have been wrong on so many levels, and I'm fairly positive that Griffin would have me hanged. Brent. I looked up and saw Alexa staring at me quizzically. I cleared my throat and stood up straight. I had been avoiding her for the past several days now, and it was getting harder and harder. Chaos was hounding me to let this SHT with Kale Thornwood go, and just talk to our mate and make up with her. Not even make love, just make up. Hey, Lex, I replied and scratched the back of my neck. What are you doing? She asked me. Oh, I came to talk to Griffin, and I accidentally walked in on him and your sister having an intimate moment, I said while trying not to sound like a peeping Tom. What? She lifted an eyebrow. Never mind. What are you doing? I countered to change the subject. I was going to go downstairs to get something to eat, she replied. Oh, what are you going to eat? Just a small snack. I don't want to ruin my appetite before dinner. Oh, okay. Enjoy your snack then, I said and turned my heel. What are you going to eat? That's the best you can do? How about asking our maid how she's feeling since you're being a pompous DCK to her? Chaos. Not now. I need time to think. You're only torturing us. And our mates for that matter. I know that. Don't think you think I know that? I don't know, do you? Because it sure as hell doesn't seem like it. You're being a selfish prick, Brent. You're hurting our mate because of your personal feelings towards Kale Thornwood and Tessa. Alexa didn't ruin your life, they did. I know that. Then why are you taking out on Alexa? I'm not. Yes, you are. You're avoiding her and hurting her. She may not show it, but she's hurting, and a lot. Have you not thought about the fact that you're not the only one avoiding her? What are you talking about? Luna Sarin, Dumba.ss. She hasn't called once to check in on our mate or Xandra. So, not only is her mate hurting her but so is her other sister. I was going to respond to him, but Chaos blocked me out. I let out a frustrated sigh as I thought about what he said. I didn't know that Sarin was also avoiding the girls by not calling Brent. I turned to see Richard. "Sir, are you still avoiding her?" he asked me. I couldn't even answer him. "You know what you're doing isn't fair to her. She's your mate, Brent, and not just some ordinary pack member. Tomorrow night, you're going to be officially named the beta of this pack. Everett will give over his power to you, and you will need to decide on whether or not you want to name Alexa as the beta female. If you choose not to, then it will open the door for pack members to hara.ss her, and I doubt that's something you want to happen." I looked at him in shock. "Remember what I told you. You need to accept the fact that she and Xandra are related to the Pattersons. But if you can't do that, or choose not to do that, then do both of you a favor and reject the poor girl. At least give her the opportunity to find a second chance mate. One that will accept her for who she is, regardless of her DNA." Before I could even respond, he walked away. I was a little confused because he seemed as if he wanted to say something more but restrained himself. I couldn't believe Richard even spoke of me rejecting Alexa. I didn't want to reject Alexa at all. Even chaos was growling in the back of my mind hearing Richard say such words. I just wanted space and time to think things through. Was that so wrong? But the fact that I had less than 24 hours to make a decision about my future with Alexa weighed heavily on me. Even though avoiding her was getting harder and harder because of the mate bond, I wasn't sure if I was ready to accept the fact that she's Cale Thornwood and Tessa's half-sister. "Stop making this all about you. This isn't about you. You're letting dead people control your feelings." Chaos was right. Cale Thornwood and Tessa were dead and, here I was, still letting them run my life like they did when I was their prisoner. Sure, on the one hand, they ruined my life, but on the other hand, had they not done what they did, I may not have survived much longer. I wouldn't have been picked up by Richard to join his pack and learn to fight and become stronger. I never would have gone to Blue Lake with him during the Alphas meeting to meet Alexa. Hell, I wouldn't be in a position to become the next beta of this pack. As soon as it dawned on me how much of I had really been to Alexa, I needed to find her and apologize tenfold. I hurt my mate all because I couldn't see what a blessing in disguise all of this SHT really was. And she was the biggest blessing of them all. I shook my head at myself and my selfish banter and went to go find Alexa. I ran down to the kitchen and saw her with Mav Kellunk. They seemed to be getting a little too close to each other. Before I could say anything, Mav Kellunk looked down and had the saddest look I had ever seen. "Jay still isn't talking?" Alexa asked him. He shook his head. "She is eating and drinking though, so I guess that's a step in the right direction," he replied. "Give her time. She's been through a lot. More than me and Xandra. I can't even begin to imagine everything Marvin and those disgusting, sorry excuses for wolves did to her. I'm going to give her as much as she needs. I don't care that she's not pure. She did what she did out of survival, and I'm glad she did. It means that she fought to hold on, and now, she's here, safe, with me," Mav Kellunk replied. I had to commend him. He was looking past all of the bad SHT that was going on with Jennifer and only looking on the bright side. I felt a little Cale Thornwood aimed that I couldn't do that with Alexa. Instead of comforting her as a good mate should have, I took it out on her instead. "Hey, Brent." I heard my name and looked at them. "Hey," I replied and walked over carefully. The entire time Alexa's eyes didn't leave mine. "I'm sorry, Mav, but you can please excuse me and Alexa for a minute." "Sure, brother. I need to go check on Jay anyway," he said and got up. He patted me on the shoulder and left the kitchen. After I knew he was out of earshot, I looked back at Alexa. "Is everything okay?" she asked with genuine concern. How could she still be so sweet and kind to me after all the emotional hell I had probably put her through the last week? "No, it's not," I answered truthfully. "What's wrong?" "Us." "What?" "Not us, I meant me." "I'm what's wrong, Alexa? I don't understand." "I've been ADCK to you, Alexa. A complete and utter DCK. I took my personal feelings towards what happened to me last year out on you, all because Cale Thornwood is biologically your half-brother. You didn't even know that you were related to him until everything came to light last week. And instead of me being the mate that you deserve and making sure that the information didn't cause you any emotional harm, I was the one that caused you that harm. I hurt your feelings and I know that. And instead of you pushing me or trying to force me to talk, you've done nothing but be 100% supportive and have given me all the space and time I've asked for. But Richard said something to me right as I walked away from you, and it made me realize that if I didn't uck it up and just accept the fact that you're related to Cale Thornwood, then I would have to let you go, and I realized that I wouldn't be strong enough to do that." "Brent, what do you mean by letting me go?" "Reject you. Richard told me that if I couldn't be the mate that you deserve or the beta that this pack deserves, then I should cut you loose and allow you to find happiness with someone else, and I just can't do that. I love you, Alexa. I know it's really early to say it, but I love you, and I will be damned if I let another man have what is mine." "What did you just say?" "I said I would be damned if." "No, not that. What you said before that." I paused a minute and knew what she wanted me to say again. "I love you, Alexa. I love you." She smiled sweetly at me. "I love you, too." I grabbed her P.S., pulled her to me, and Cale Thornwood my P.S. into hers. The sparks of the mate bond made me feel like I was soaring through the skies. I was an IT to ever keep away from this beautiful creature that is mine. And tomorrow night, I was going to officially make her mine. Chapter 43. Alexa's POV. I woke up in the morning and found myself in unfamiliar territory, entangled within someone else's arms and legs. My face was resting on top of an extremely hard C.Hest, and someone was lightly snoring. My senses were filled with the aroma of freshly baked cupcakes. I slightly lifted my head to investigate and saw Brent sound asleep. I briefly glanced around the room and realized we were inside his room in the pack house. I was honestly confused as to how I ended up in bed with him. I knew we didn't have sex because both of us were still fully clothed. This must have prompted my memory because I was instantly brought back to yesterday afternoon when he came into the kitchen to apologize to me. Everything replayed in my mind. It was then I remembered that Brent had confessed his love to me, and I reciprocated back. The thought alone made my cheeks feel warm. I nuzzled into his C.Hest and felt his arms tighten around me. He stirred and cleared his throat. "Are you awake, babe?" he asked groggily. "Yeah." "I'm sorry, did I wake you up by moving?" "No, I was just making sure you weren't trying to run away from me," he responded before turning over to encase me in both of his arms. I maneuvered my arms the best I could and was able to put one over his HP. I made small circular motions with my fingertips. That tickles," he said and kissed the top of my head. "Oh, sorry," I giggled and stopped. "I didn't say stop," he replied. I smiled again and continued. "Anna used to do this for us when we were little. It helped us go to sleep when we were having a rough night." Brent pulled back a bit and looked down at me. I lifted my chin to meet his gaze. What do you mean by rough night? You know, if they electrocuted us a little more than usual, or if they hit us for not listening to them, I answered casually. I felt his body stiffen. Brent. I looked at him again, his eyes were black, and he was breathing heavily. Brent. He closed his eyes as he tried to slow down his breathing to quell his emotions. After a minute or so, his eyes opened and they were back to normal. What happened? Why were your eyes black? Did I make you angry? No, baby, you didn't. Just hearing about what happened to you and Xandra in the past just triggers me in chaos. He hates hearing about what happened and wishes that he could have prevented all of that from happening. Well, tell him I appreciate the thought. He can hear you. Remember, he hears what I hear. Just like Brooklyn hears what you hear. Speaking of Brooklyn, chaos has been badgering me non-stop to meet her. I froze when he mentioned it. Oh. Alexa, why haven't you ever shifted? He asked me. I hated the fact that he brought it up. Baby, are you afraid to shift? I nodded my head. Why? I don't know. Brooklyn hasn't brought it up yet, and she's willing to wait until she's ready to come out. But Xandra shifted. Only because Lori or Loretta. Lorelai. Whatever. It was only because she hit her. Xandra may be shy and reserved, but she doesn't take sh/t from people. Believe it or not, Xandra is the one who got us into more trouble back in the day because she was always back talking. Wait, what? Xandra? Talking back, he asked, genuinely surprised at what I said. I just nodded my head. After we laughed for a bit, he cleared his throat again. Okay, now back on topic. Why are you afraid to shift? The pain. What? I don't want to feel the pain of shifting for the time being. Xandra said it hurt, and that she felt sore after she shifted back. I've felt a lot of physical pain in my life, and I don't want to feel it anymore. Emotional pain is one thing, but physical pain is another. After everything we went through physically, I just don't want to add to it. Ah, Alexa, come here. He held me close to him and stroked my hair. Look, I won't lie and say that shifting for the first time won't be painful. It's excruciatingly painful, and it takes several minutes. But, when you are ready to shift, I will be there with you the entire time. Shifting may be painful, but it's magical too. The bond with your wolf becomes so much stronger, and just like how she can see through your eyes when you're in your human form, you will be able to see through eyes while in wolf form. Brooklyn also deserves her chance to meet Chaos, her mate. I knew Brent was right, and I felt horrible for keeping Brooklyn from Chaos over something as stupid as fear of pain. You're not stupid, Alexa. I understand. When I saw everything you went through after I came to life on your 18th birthday, I was appalled and angry. So, I am completely fine with waiting a little longer until you are ready. Sure, I want to hurry and meet Chaos, but I am also your wolf and I feel your fear. I would never want you to go through something fearful just to meet my mate. Chaos will understand. Just like Brent does. Brooklyn, what did I do to deserve such an amazing wolf like you? You were born with me, silly girl. I was just asleep until it was time to wake up. I smiled when she moved to the back of my mind. I looked up at Brent, who was just smiling. What? You were having a conversation with Brooklyn, hey? Yeah, sorry. She was just reassuring me that she's willing to wait to meet Chaos. She doesn't want me to be in pain at her expense. Chaos said the same thing. He wants to see his mate, but he doesn't want you to be forced into pain just to meet her. When the time is right, you will know, he told me with a smile capable of melting this glacial heart of mine. What if, I started to say and paused. He stared at me and waited for me to continue. What if we shift together after you mark me? He looked surprised. Are you sure? Yeah, what better time than when we become one with each other? I mean, that is what marking is, right? Solidifying our bond. Yeah, it is. Then, what's the problem? I asked. Nothing. I guess there's only one thing left to ask: when do you want me to mark you? I hadn't thought about that. Well, Sarin said it normally happens during X. The moment I said the S word, his eyes turned black again, but this time it wasn't out of anger. All I saw was desire. X, hey? So, let me ask you this, my oh so beautiful mate of mine, he began to say and moved me onto my back. When did you want to have X? Before I could even answer, he pressed his LPS to mine and rubbed his lower half against my lower half. I felt something poke me in the stomach. Brent, what is that? I asked while breaking away. He didn't answer but moved on to kissing my neck instead. He ducked on a tender spot that instantly made me moan. He continued to rub his body against me as he focused on one spot on my neck. The thing that was poking me was getting harder and harder. He maneuvered his body to position himself between my legs, and whatever was poking me in the stomach was now poking me between the legs where my private area was. I gasped when I felt it make contact down there, but not from pain or discomfort. It felt good, a warm sensation was building up in my lower body and I thought I felt a small bit of liquid leak out of my private area. Brent! Oh God, I moaned. He stopped ducking on my neck and kissed my lips again. I opened my mouth, and he pushed his tongue in. I never thought the inside of someone else's mouth could taste good, but Brent tasted so amazing. He moaned into the kiss as our tongues rubbed and twisted with one another. You're making me so hard, Alexa, he said and moved his body so that he was slight to my right side. What does that mean? This. He took my hand and placed it over his private area. What I felt freaked me out and I instinctively retracted my hand. What is that? It's called a boner, Alexa. It's what happens to a man when they're H0RNY. Oh. That's a good thing. I asked and pointed to the boner. Yes, it's a great thing. But it's also very painful right now, he said and laughed. Why? Well, it's a little tight in my pants, baby. Can't you just take your pants off? I don't think you're ready for that, yet, he replied with a smirk. But, you said that it hurts, I said and reached for the band of his pants. Alexa. No. Hold on, he said and jumped back. Why? I don't want you to be in pain, Brent. Alexa, baby, you need to calm down, he said and laughed again. I was so confused. The pain will go away on its own. You mentioned X and that instantly turned me on. But I'm not going to show you my DCK until we're ready to mate. What if I want to see it now? I asked shyly. What? Show me your PS, Brent. I've always wondered what a hard PS looks like. Alexa. What? No. Show me, Brent. I shouted and got out of the bed. Alexa, stay back, he returned fire and used his hand to cover his boner. It's still hard. Which means you're still H0RNY. So, just take off your pants and show me. My God, woman! When did you get so assertive? He declared and moved back towards the corner of the room. I smiled, seeing that I had him cornered. I slowly moved towards him, and he kept trying to push further and further back into the wall. I pressed my body up against him and moved his hands out of the way. He fought me at first, but once I got a hold of his D*K, he instantly gave up. What's wrong, Brent? I thought men liked it when a woman touched them. Oh, he moaned and bit his lip. Tell me, my handsome mate, does this feel good? I asked whatever it was I was doing. He was definitely enjoying it because all he did was not extremely fast. Do you want me to take it out? Me, Alexa, you need to stop, he breathed heavily. Are you sure? You seem to be enjoying it, I replied when I saw his eyes flutter and his hands try to grip the wall behind him. I got on my tippy toes, not once stopping my hand movements, and kissed his neck. There was a certain spot that just seemed to be sweeter than the rest of his flesh, and I knew right then and there, this was going to be the spot that I marked him. Brent was practically melting at my every touch. I think we should let it out, don't you? Alexa, you really need to stop. I'm going to blow. Blow. I was confused when he said that. Brent shouted, and then I felt something warm and sticky squirt all over my hand. It was shooting out of the little hole in the tip, and there was a lot of it. After a minute or so, Brent slid down to the floor and was breathless. What is this stuff? I asked and inspected my hand. That is called C*M, he answered between breaths. I've never blown so hard from a hand job before. Is that what I was doing to you? A hand job? Yes, that felt so good. I giggled at him. Griffin's POV. As the day progressed, preparations for the Alpha ceremony were getting underway. Omegas were scrambling all about to adorn the packhouse with decorations, the kitchen staff was working on the massive feast to cater to all of the visiting packs, and Xandra was getting ready somewhere upstairs with my mother. Griffin. I turned to see my dad with Killian. Hey, buddy. I greeted my son. Daddy, mine. Killian pointed to the lavish displays surrounding us. I'm sorry buddy, but no. This party is for the grown ups daddy, Uncle Brent, Uncle Mav Kellunk, Xandra, and Alexa. Okay. Don't worry, my little man. There's going to be food, music, and dancing. And Alpha Jasper, Luna Sarin, and Samson are coming too, I told him as I bent down to his level. Sam here? He asked with excitement all over his face. Soon. And they're going to be here for a couple of days, so you guys can have sleepovers with your cousins too. Yay! 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 He jumped up and down. I looked up at my dad, who just smiled at me. What? You are an amazing father, Griffin. I didn't think I could be any more proud of the man you've grown up to become, yet here you are, about to be crowned the next alpha of this pack, he replied and started to get teary-eyed. Come on, old man, don't get all soft on me now. I joked with him. Shut up, boy. Let this old man be proud for a minute. I chuckled and let him have his moment. After everything that happened with your first mate and you becoming a single father, I was so heartbroken that my son, my baby boy, had to endure so much pain by himself. But now, you have a second chance mate, one that is so special and rare. I know she's not Killian's birth mother, but I do not doubt in my mind that she will make a fine mother to him in due time. I smiled at that. I couldn't wait for Xandra to accept Killian as her son, but I promised she could have all the time in the world to do that. Your mother and I are also hoping for more grandchildren, he added nonchalantly. Dad! Come on! Xandra's only 18. Give her a few years. Tell your mother that. I scoffed and shook my head. Griffin! I turned to see Richard. Sir! Enough with the honorific TLES, will you? You're going to be crowned the next alpha in a couple of hours, boy. I'm sorry, Richard. It's a force of habit. Quite all right. I wanted to come fetch you. The guests are starting to arrive. We should go greet them. Of course. Where is Brent? Here. We heard him shout while running down the stairs. He looked flustered, and yet, oddly happy. Dude, you didn't. I said to him. What? No. Well, not quite, but... Wait, why am I even explaining anything to you? He exclaimed, making me, my dad, and Richard laugh. I see that you and Alexa have made up. Richard asked. Yes, sir. Brent replied happily. Again, with the sir. Did I miss something? Brent asked. He doesn't want us calling him sir anymore, I answered. Oh, well, that's easy then, Richard, Brent said smugly. Richard scowled at him and I unwittingly smirked. Let's go greet the guests, shall we? Richard commanded. Brent and I chuckled. Wait, where is Mav Kellunk? Richard stopped and asked. Brent and I just looked at each other. Never mind. He's where he needs to be for now. We will have to save his inauguration for a later time. We nodded and headed out front to greet the guests. In just a few short hours, this pack was going to belong to me, and I was nervous as hell. But I was happy it was finally happening. Nothing could ruin this day. Chapter 44. Sarin's P.O.V. The winds of change had brought some turbulence into my life, but it was a welcome reprieve to arrive back at Golden Moon to attend Griffin's Alpha ceremony and Xandra's subsequent Luna ceremony. Even with everything that has been going on, I couldn't be happier for both of them. Kendrick accompanied us as it was customary for betas to do so when attending an event as grand as an Alpha ceremony. It was going to be particularly special because tonight was the full moon. Mommy, Sam began to fuss in his car seat as we were approaching closer to the pack house. Jasper preferred to leave him with Ronan and Grace, but I insisted that we bring them here so that he could have a play date with Killian. They have become fast friends and being only several months apart in age really helped. Additionally, I knew that Griffin's nephews would be here, and Sam had a blast with them last time. We done? Sam implored sweetly, signaling he was over being inside the car for so long. Yes, baby, we're here, I told him as I pinched his cheek. Yay! Kian, he clapped his hands. Kian. Kendrick repeated from the driver's seat. Killian, I responded. Oh, damn, how is it that I can understand Leanne, but I can't understand Sam? Kendrick wondered and shook his head. Jasper and I just smiled. Kendrick pulled up to the front of the pack house where Griffin, Richard, and Brent were greeting the arriving guests. Jasper opened the door and exited our vehicle first. I unbuckled Sam from his car seat, and he jumped out of the car. I stepped out as well, and Jasper held his hand out for me. Jasper, thank you so much for coming, Richard welcomed him. Young Alpha, it's so good to see you again, he greeted Sam and extended his hand out. Sam smiled BKL Thornwoodfully and gave him a high five instead. Where Kian? He asked immediately. He's inside waiting for you, Griffin replied. Daddy, go. Sam said and pulled Jasper by his shirt. Hold on, Son. I need to greet Griffin first. Remember, alphas need to be respectful and do their job before they have fun. Okay, Sam lowered his head. Jasper, I may need you to help with Killian when it comes to alpha training, Griffin said, shaking his hand. Of course, I'd be happy to give you a few pointers. Sarin, it's good to see you again, Griffin approached me and put out his hand. I kindly took it. It's good to see you too, Griffin. Where are the girls? I asked him. They're getting ready for the ceremonies. I haven't seen Xandra all day. My mother is acting like this is our wedding day instead of our Alpha and Luna ceremonies, he replied and rolled his eyes. I couldn't stop the giggle that followed. And Alexa? I asked. She's probably with them, Brent answered. I looked at him, and he looked oddly happy. Brent, I get the feeling that you and Alexa made up, and very recently I might add, I said to him and lifted my brow knowingly. Brent immediately blushed, making all of the men chuckle. Daddy! Sam yelled and pulled on Jasper again. Samson Valencia! Jasper growled at him. Sam pouted at him and tears filled his eyes. Jasper, don't be so harsh. He's just excited to see his friend, I scolded him. Come on, baby. Let's go find Killian while Daddy does his business. I picked him up and took him inside. Stop coddling him, Sarin. He needs to learn patience. Stop being such a d-ck to him, Jasper. He's barely going to be 2. Be happy that he has the amount of patience he does at the moment. I could feel Jasper roll his eyes at me as I walked away. I ventured around the pack house with Sam in tow, looking for Killian and Griffin's parents. I was greeted by several Golden Moon Pack members and other alphas that had already arrived. As I turned the corner to the dining area, I ran into Chelsea. Oh! Excuse me, I said. Oh, Luna Sarin, what a pleasant surprise, she exclaimed with a smile. Hi, Sam, she said and pinched his cheek. Mommy, Kian. Sam, be polite and say hello to Chelsea first, then we will go find Killian, I gently reminded him. It's okay. Pups at his age only have one thing on their mind, and that's playtime. All 3 of my boys went through that phase. It's the socialization phase, Chelsea assured me. I know, but Jasper wants him to be a polite and respectful person before he lets him have his fun, I said without bothering to mask the sarcasm in my voice. Thomas is the same way. They're just trying to mold them into respectful men. He's barely going to be 2. I asserted, making her laugh. My dad has Killian in the back with my kids. I'll take Sam to them, and you can get settled with the other Lunas that are already here. Or, if you want to go see Xandra, she's upstairs on the 3rd floor. The first room on the left, Chelsea mentioned nonchalantly and took Sam from my arms. Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate it. Samson Valencia, you be a good boy and listen to Chelsea and Mr. Ray, do you understand me? They're in charge right now. Yes. Chelsea smiled and whisked Sam away, bouncing in her arms. I let out a sigh of relief as she took my child to go play with the other pups. I made my way back around the pack house and up the stairs to go find Xandra and Alexa. I was still apprehensive about this whole situation, but I promised Griffin that I could at least be a friend to them, for now. I will never deny that they're my sisters, but accepting them as such was still difficult at the moment. I found the room where Xandra was supposed to be with Angeline and knocked 3 times. The door opened, and Alexa appeared before me. Sarin! Alexa shouted and h.ugged me. I h.ugged her back and smiled. Come in, She gestured and held the door open. She was also unusually upbeat and happy, just like Brent. I smiled to myself. Her scent wasn't mixed with his, but it was obvious they only had some intimate moments together. I had to commend Brent for moving past this whole ordeal of being related to Cale Thornwood and accepting Alexa as his maid again. "Hi, Sarin," Xandra called out from the chair at the vanity. "Wow, Xandra, you look gorgeous," I told her. Her hair had been curled to perfection, and Angeline had created a Dutch braid crown around her head. Small, white flowers were threaded between the braids. Her makeup was done very naturally, almost similar to how Milan did mine for my Luna ceremony. "Luna, so glad to see you again," Angeline said and gave me a motherly age.ug. I looked at Xandra again and could have sworn I saw my mom for a split second. "Sarin, is everything okay?" Xandra asked as she noticed me staring intently at her. "Yeah, it's just that. You look a lot like our mom with your hair like that. Now that I think about it, you look a lot like her." "I do." "Yeah. I guess I never noticed before with everything that was going on. Actually, now that I think about it, Mom styled her hair the same way for her Luna ceremony too," I said and pulled out my phone. "Luna? What do you mean by your mom?" Angeline asked as she pointed to the three of us. Something told me she missed the memo. She doesn't know." I verified with the girls and they both shook their heads and looked at Angeline with guilt in their eyes. "Angeline, we recently found out that the girls and I are related. We're half-sisters." "I'm sorry." She was shocked, to say the least, but it was understandable. "Yeah, I apologize that you're just now finding out about this. But, I assumed that Griffin would have told you and Raymond." "Oh, that boy of mine is going to get it. Alpha or not, I'm going to kick him," Angeline said, making fists in the air. Alexa, Xandra, and I giggled at her. "Right, well, we don't have time for my dramatic antics right now. Xandra, sweetheart, let's get you and your sister in your dresses and do the final touches on your hair and makeup, shall we?" Xandra and Alexa nodded. I stayed to help out. It felt good being there for them and being able to celebrate this milestone with them. They have definitely come a long way, considering their tragic past and all of the trauma they have endured. Even though it was only a few short weeks ago that they literally landed at Blue Lake, I couldn't be prouder to see them flourish the way that they have. Now, one was going to become Luna and the other was going to become Beta. As I was helping Alexa put on her dress, I felt a sudden pressure in my head. I knew what it meant, and I grasped onto Alexa. "Sarin!" I heard her call out. As soon as I was about to respond, visions poured into my mind faster than I could interpret. I could hear screams and cries all around me. Pools of blood were accumulating everywhere, and bodies were scattered all over. It was an absolute bloodbath. As I looked around, I saw that nearly all of the alphas and betas were dead. Lunas were sobbing over their mates' bodies, at least, the ones that were still alive. Among the bodies were young pups. But what made my heart catch in my throat was when I saw the bodies of those I loved most. Jasper's end-ached body was lying on top of Sam's. Teardrops fell from my eyes when I felt a sudden chill behind me. When I turned around, I was met with a face I never thought I would ever see again. "You're mine!" I gasped as I came out of my premonition. I grasped my C.Hest, feeling the immense pain of all those who lost a loved one. "Sarin!" I jumped up when I saw Jasper in front of me. He had a look of pure concern and fear. "Jasper!" I leaped into his arms and cried into his neck. Dearest, what happened? What did you see? Sam? Where's Sam? I shouted. I needed to see him. I needed to hold him after what I had just seen. He's with Killian outside in the back. He's safe, I promise. Tell me what you saw, he said sternly, trying to get me to calm down. Oh God, Jasper, it was horrible. It was a bloodbath. Everyone was dead. All of the alphas, betas, and even some of the lunas. And, I gasped as tears fell from my eyes. And what? Tell me, Tink, what else did you see? You, Jasper. I saw you and Sam, dead. You were ached as if you had just shifted, and you were holding his lifeless little body. Oh God, Jasper, it was horrible. It was Silver Lake all over again. I cried and held on to him for dear life. Okay, okay. Shhhh, he cooed. I'm right here with you. Shhh, he reassured me as he rubbed my back and held me tightly. And I'll be damned if anyone lays a finger on our son. Jasper, I pulled away with tears still streaming down my face. What? What is it? I saw him, he was there. Who was? Cale Thornwood. What? He growled. Sarin, did you say, Cale Thornwood? Xandra asked with her eyes wide. I gasped realizing what I had just done. Xandra. What's going on? Why is someone who is supposed to be dead in your vision? Vision? Angeline asked. I turned my attention to her. Luna, is that what just happened? You had a vision? What are you? She's a powerful wolf, Angeline, but that's not what's important right now. What is important is that it seems the Pattersons will be taking their revenge. Tonight during the ceremony, Jasper said to her while standing up and bringing me with him. I need to gather all of the alphas. I don't know how, but Kellen and Cale Thornwood Patterson are going to be attacking tonight. It seems to me that Cale Thornwood still has one thing on his mind, and that's having Sarin for himself. Jasper let me go and stormed out of the room. Sarin, tell us what's going on. Alexa demanded. I calmed myself and nodded my head. They had a right to know, especially since this affected them directly as well. I spent the next 30 minutes explaining to them that the Pattersons were, in fact, still alive and how that was possible. Once I finished, the girls and Angeline were distressed. I knew this would trigger everyone, more so for Alexa because she and Brent had just fixed things. What are we going to do? What if Kellen finds out who we are? Xandra asked in full-blown panic mode. Yeah, what if he tries to take us? Alexa also chimed in. I won't let that happen. Kellen has taken everything from me already. I will not let him take my baby sisters from me. I'll die before I let that happen. I snarled. I turned my heel and went to go find Jasper and the others. I followed his scent, and it led me to Griffin's office. I burst through the doors, and the tension of pure unadulterated anger was coming off in waves from all of the men in the room. It was filled with all of the alphas and even a few elders who were here for the ceremony. Sarin, where are Xandra and Alexa? Griffin asked. We're right here. I turned around to see Xandra, Alexa, and Angeline entering the office. Young man, you have a lot of explaining to do. Mother, not now. We have more pressing matters to deal with. You can scold me later. Griffin shouted. Xandra, come here, he said to her. Xandra ran over to him and he instantly wrapped his arms around her. Brent? Alexa looked at him. His eyes immediately softened. He let out a deep breath and opened his arms for her. She ran to him instantaneously. Luna, what is this about you having powers? One of the alphas in the room demanded to know. I turned to him at the sudden question. My Luna is not an ordinary wolf. She has multiple abilities, and it's what saved our pack last year during the vampire attack. She didn't just kill the vampire with her bare hands. If you have a problem with my mate and her abilities, then it's your problem, not ours. Jasper yelled at him. The other alpha was taken aback but didn't say anything more. Now that we've gotten that fact out of the way, what are we going to do about the Pattersons? Griffin, you told me that it was a possibility that they were alive, not that they actually were. Brent shouted. It was only a theory up until right now, Brent. I told you to because I wanted to be honest with you, but we didn't know for sure either. Griffin fired back. Why didn't anyone tell us? Xandra screamed at both of them. Yet. We had a right to know too. Alexa joined in. The next thing I knew, all of the alphas in the room were yelling at each other, then at Richard, then at Jasper, and even at me. I could hear their inner voices as well, judging me for being different. We don't have time for the blame game. I screamed at the top of my lungs and shook the room. Everyone became silent. So silent you could hear the sound of a pin drop on the marble floor. Yes. We have established that Kellen Patterson and his good-for-nothing mutt family are still, in fact, alive. My premonition proves that. Somehow, he was able to escape execution, and has been living off the map for the last year. The fact that someone in the Elders' Council was able to be corrupted by him is no surprise, as he is a manipulative who is used to getting his way. I will not allow him to take what is more precious to me, and that is my family. In my vision, every single one of you alphas and elders in this room was dead. 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 Your heads missing, and your hearts outside of your bodies. If your Luna survived the attack, they were left grieving. Not only did you all die, but so did the young pups of Golden Moon, including my son. So, unless you want to leave your packs susceptible to takeovers by the likes of Kellen and Cale Thornwood Patterson, get your heads out, and work together like the alphas you are. Make sure this actually dies and stays dead this time. I roared at the room. It was eerily quiet, and everyone just stared. After a minute or so of pure silence, Elder Jonah stood to his feet and clapped his hands. Spoken like a true alpha. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Sarin Calloway, the heir to the Silver Lake Pack. Not only a true alpha but also a pure alpha, he said stoically while addressing the entire room. Elder Jonah faced me and bowed his head. The room froze and some even gasped. It was never in an elder's nature to bow to anyone. Elder wolves were the highest in the hierarchy of werewolves, at least that I knew of. One by one, the other elders in the room, which were only two others, also stood to their feet and bowed their heads as well. Then, each alpha followed suit, and all bowed their heads. I stared back at everyone and didn't know how to process what was happening. Jasper then came up to me and whispered in my ear, as soft as he could so only I could hear it, if we didn't have to prepare for war, I'd bend you over and you 6 ways to Sunday, dearest. That was the thing I've ever seen, and I'm harder than a boulder right now. I turned my head to him with my eyes wide and I felt the small pool of wee-dotness against my panties. Jasper's eyes darkened, and I looked down lightly to see the bulge in his pants. He stared into my eyes and I could have sworn he projected images of what he wanted to do to me just now into my mind. I knew for a fact he didn't have powers. Did he just reverse my own power against me? The wee-dotness between my legs became more fluid, and I had to press my ghs together. Alpha Jasper. Jasper straightened himself as if nothing happened. Elder Jonah. You have a fine Luna, and she will make this council proud. But for right now, we need to figure out a way to stop this attack. I couldn't agree more, Jasper replied. Jonah, how do we proceed? We have no idea how or when they're going to attack, Richard pointed out. Everyone gradually began to focus on me. Young Luna, in your vision, were you able to see the time, or any other point of rev before whoever was talking to me could finish? William and Olivia appeared in the room, frightening everyone. What in tarnation? Where did they come from? What spot? William? Olivia? What are you doing here? I asked them as if they didn't just give everyone near heart attacks. I had a vision of everyone dying, William answered. Who is this man? Someone asked. Greetings, my name is William, and I am here to help. This is my mate, Olivia, a light witch. Now that you know our names, let's get back to the real issue at hand. William, Kellen, and Cale Thornwood are coming, Jasper told him. I saw. William, did you see the time it took place? Or anything else like that? I asked him. All I could see was that it was dark, and the moon was at its peak in the night sky. I saw Griffin's body, and he had the cut on his hand to show that he was at least about to or had already received Richard's alpha power. Of course, Jonah said and scratched his chin. Jonah? What is it? Richard asked. Kellen and whatever army he has is going to attack the moment your transfer of power takes place. It's when a pack is at its weakest point. The fraction of a second that there is no alpha. Everyone stiffened and nodded their heads in agreement. Something wasn't right though. Wait, I said and got everyone's attention. How would Kellen even know when that would be happening? He would have to either be here to witness it or there is a mole, Richard snarled. If there was one thing I knew about Richard, it was that he didn't take betrayal lightly. I'm sure no one did, but Richard seemed to be on a different level than most. Whatever his issue was with betrayal, it didn't matter right now. There was a mole in this pack, and they were feeding information to Kellen and Cale Thornwood. Just wait until I get my hands on this person. They're going to wish they were never born. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.